It's much too cold outside to be doing much of any gardening, but there's a lot of plants that you can grow, bring inside the house to give yourself pleasure during the winter time.
Now we're here at Tierra Vista Greenhouses in Tulsa. We've picked out a whole array of foliage plants to show you, things that you can bring into your home right now and brighten things up for you.
While you're showing them that, I'm going to go look and see what they have in the way of flowering plants.
Okay, see you later, Tim. Well, if you're just getting started with houseplants, there are a lot of them that you just can't fail with. We'll start off with English ivy. It comes in many different forms. This is a very curly form. It's also variegated foliage with cream and white. And then here's the standard English ivy. And this is something you're probably familiar with seeing outside in the landscape. It'll grow indoors as well, and it's very easy to take cuttings from it later on if you want to grow more. You can also shape it around a wreath such as this in a nice circular form. So it's a plant that's easy to use in lots of different ways around the house. It makes a lovely hanging basket too. Another one that's hard to kill is the pothos or devil's ivy. Now, this is the variegated form with cream and white foliage. Very pretty. It'll require a little more light than the regular pothos, but grows extremely well. I've seen this in a lot of offices, and it will circle a window frame in no time if you give it plenty of water and fertilizer. Great plant to grow. Another one that's almost impossible to kill is the mother-in-law's tongue, or Sansevieria. This is the rosette form. It stays quite small. It will take low light, lack of water. It thrives on neglect practically. Here's a taller form over here. And again, it comes in regular dark green or the variegated form. Doesn't require much watering, easy plant to grow. Now, there are some that are a bit more of a challenge, but still, most any beginning gardener can handle them. First one is the Ficus benjamina, or weeping fig. This one is actually 3 plants that have been braided together, and it gives a nice, interesting trunk pattern. I've seen some that are trained around a piece of PVC pipe and are growing in a spiral form, and they too are interesting. And the ficus sometimes gets a bad reputation because people say, oh, I buy it and it just drops its foliage as soon as I bring it in the house. Well, the reason for that is that it's not acclimated. These are grown actually out in the field down in Florida, out in the dirt, right out in the sunshine. They dig them up, pot them up, bring them in greenhouses or ship them up north, and all of a sudden they're in a much darker environment and they have trouble acclimating. So when you bring it in the house, sometimes they'll drop their foliage. But if you be patient, give it plenty of light, water, it will resprout leaves. It's a very resilient plant. Believe me, I've kept mine out on a patio for a number of years and maybe forgotten to water it, and as soon as I notice that it's dropping its leaves, I water it, it bounces right back. Now, another form of ficus is the variegated one right here. Now, plants that have variegation don't have as much chlorophyll in their leaves, so they are going to require more light. So put this in a little higher light place, but not in direct sunlight. Now, the ficus gets very, very big. If you've ever gone to any of the shopping malls in Tulsa or Oklahoma City, you've probably noticed those great big trees that they used to decorate with. Well, those are Ficus benjamina. And they're in the same family as the fig tree, incidentally. So it's a good plant to grow. Now, if you want a plant to hang up somewhere and give you a nice feeling of green and nice full environment so far as plants go, you might try the Swedish Ivy. Now, this did not originate in Sweden, but it's called Swedish Ivy because in Sweden it's a very popular hanging basket, and they like to hang them in their front windows. It's actually a member of the mint family, and it will develop little spikes of white flowers. But mostly it's grown for its foliage, but it makes a full hanging basket in no time. It's another plant that's easy to take cuttings from and share with your friends. Now, up here is a variegated Swedish Ivy. If you want to keep that variegation, you're going to have to keep the green parts pinched out because the green has much more robust, vigorous growth, and it will overtake the variegation in no time. But you can maintain it with some care and with some extra fertilization. This planting, incidentally, is a mixture of Swedish Ivy and purple wandering Jew. And that's something that you may not have thought of. If you only have room for one hanging basket, you can grow 2 or 3 different types of vining plants in one basket and have a little different form for your home. Now over here is an airplane plant, also called spider plant or Chlorophytum. It too is one of the easiest plants to grow. And some people have trouble getting it to sprout these offshoots. The secret is to keep it slightly pot bound. If it's pretty crowded in the pot, it'll tend to send off more offshoots, and you can either leave those there for interest or cut them off and root them and share them with your friends. One tip I want to give you on the spider plant is that sometimes if you're using city water that's heavily chlorinated, you can get brown on the tips of the foliage. If instead, when you're watering, you will fill old milk, 1-gallon milk containers with water, let them sit out for a day or two. Sometimes that helps prevent the browning. Also avoid over-fertilization. And make sure you let them go slightly dry between waterings. Don't keep them constantly moist. Let's take a look at a few other plants that we can grow. One that's not too difficult is the Parlor Palm. One thing I want you to keep in mind, though, with palms is that their growing point is down at the base of the plant. So don't ever prune off or cut off a palm because you can ruin the growth habit of it entirely. Also, palms characteristically will drop their lower leaves. The lower fronds will die back. Just clip those back with some scissors. You don't want to tear them off because you could damage this basal structure right here. But palms are slow growing, pretty easy to take care of. The only thing you need to watch are spider mites. And if you have a house that's heated with forced air heat, you want to watch hot, dry conditions, especially in the wintertime. Put them in the shower now and then, give them a bath, keep the dust off, and they'll do quite well, live for years in a house. And a couple other plants that maybe take a little more thought when you're growing them. One is the Norfolk island pine. Now, this is a tropical form. You can't move it outside and expect it to survive the wintertime. It's a tropical member of the conifer family. Norfolk island pine, if it does not have enough light, will start to drop its lower branches. And this is probably the biggest complaint we get from people on it. And really all you need to do is make sure that you have it near bright indirect light. Give it supplemental lighting if possible, because it will grow quite well. I have one at home that's about 8 feet tall, but it's next to a wall that's solid glass from floor to ceiling, so it's getting plenty of light. With Norfolk island pine, you want to make sure it has good drainage, but do keep the soil constantly moist. Make sure you feed it during the spring, summer, and fall. It goes sort of semi-dormant in the wintertime and rests, so you don't want to feed it then. But they're a lovely plant to grow, nice to decorate at Christmas time. Now this is the China doll, and it has a similar growth habit to the Schefflera. This happens to be a Hawaiian Schefflera, has nice waxy foliage. Both of these plants are very fast growing, will give you a good sized plant in a matter of months if you feed it and water it and give it very bright light. Again, not necessarily direct sunlight, but a southern exposure that at least gets bright light into it. Never let this plant, the China doll, go entirely dry, because it will start to drop its foliage. But like the Ficus benjamina, it's very resilient, and it will sprout new foliage back again, but you really don't want to stress it that hard if you don't have to. Now another plant that has rather specific light requirements is the Dracaena. This is Dracaena Marginata. And characteristically, ones I see that have grown in homes for some time will be about 3 times as tall as this and have no foliage down low. The lower leaves will have dropped. Again, it's a case of not enough light. And you can do supplemental lighting with a spotlight or a fluorescent light nearby, or just watch where you locate it within the home. They really are high light loving plants. This is a nice collection of 4 in a pot, and a cluster of these really does look better than just one single Dracaena. Now there are some plants that have a high requirement for water, and the first one, of course, that comes to mind are the ferns. This happens to be what's known as a rabbit's foot fern. These are actually modified stems that creep over the edge of the pot. Very furry looking. That's a lovely form. Down below me in front here are various forms of Boston fern. There's also one there called the Dallas fern. And those are both selections of the same species of fern. Ferns in general must have constant moisture. If you want success with ferns, you must commit yourself to mimicking the environment they're used to, and that includes dappled shade and a cool tropical forest environment. You want it cool and moist. Don't ever put them in direct sunlight, and whatever you do, don't let the pot dry out. Some people will sink their pot down into a larger pot full of moist peat moss to help maintain moisture, or they'll set their fern on a tray of pea gravel and fill that with water to maintain humidity around them. Incidentally, if you group your plants together, it'll be easier to maintain humidity in that one location in the home, and they might do a little bit better for you. Now, the opposite end of the scale, of course, are the cacti. And believe it or not, it's easy to kill a cactus with too much care. Overwatering is probably their worst enemy. When you buy a cactus at a greenhouse, first of all, make sure that they have it in proper potting soil. This one is in a mixture of sand and gravel, has a little bit larger, a few larger pieces of gravel scattered on top to dress it up a little bit. Make sure you put it in full sun if possible, in a sunny window. By all means, don't overwater it. Now, some plants you can select for color. I have a few here gathered together. This is the Calathea. This form happens to be called Rosea picta. It has a burgundy back on the leaf that comes through slightly on the variegation on the front of the leaf. Very attractive plant. Back here is a Cordyline baby doll. It has fuchsia-colored foliage up on the new growth that's coming out. That's very pretty. Again, because of that variegation, it requires high light. Now, down here in front of this Calathea is a Dieffenbachia or dumb cane. And the name rings true. If you bite on this foliage, it can temporarily numb your tongue, hence the name dumb cane. A pretty easy plant to grow, though, and this form has nice variegation. You can also get it in solid green. Down in front is the Croton. And Croton is a real challenge to grow. It must have high light. I'd really not recommend growing it unless you have an atrium or a greenhouse. Now, over here to the back, got one more plant that I forgot about that really is very easy to grow. This is the Nephthytis or Arrowleaf, and this will even grow in water. If you just have a jar of water to keep around, it'll do fine. These tend to get tall and leggy unless you keep them pinched back. And this is one plant that's also very easy to propagate. It puts out these roots all up and down the stem. You can just cut that off, give one to a friend, and share with them. I think this is the typical plant in most college dormitories because it's almost bulletproof. The last group of foliage plants I want to share with you are some that are very well suited to an office environment. These two are both two different forms of Chinese evergreen or Aglaonema. They'll take low light. They do very well in a fluorescent light situation. You want to keep them moderately moist but not overwater them. They're fairly slow growing too. And they just keep a nice, very tidy form. As I mentioned, it's a very good situation for a desktop or the corner of an office somewhere. One last plant that's good for low light situations is the Spathiphyllum. Now, this will put up a spathe, which is a type of flower structure that's tall and white, very fresh looking, but mostly it's grown for its foliage. And this can get quite large over time, but again, slow growing and will take low light. Well, we've covered a lot of different house plants here that are grown mostly for their foliage to give you sort of a jungle atmosphere in your home. And Jim has some flowering house plants to show you to bring some color in your house this winter.